Hey everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to my second video. I just want to apologise for my voice. I've managed to contract the plague in this glorious weather that we've had in England this week. And just to explain the setting, I'm actually in London in my hotel room. I'm here for a Beat Campaigner Day tomorrow in Canary Wharf. So I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to check in and start my second video. I might also put some clips in after this of the campaigner day tomorrow, just so you can see, you know, what I got up to and exactly what was involved. It might be interesting for you to watch. Basically, just wanted to touch upon the subject of, I wanted my second video to be on bulimia, and I wanted to do that because it's not actually something I ever talk about. I don't know those of you who know me or follow me on Twitter mainly or Instagram will know that in all the campaigning that I do, I usually speak about eating disorders on the whole and anorexia, and I don't tend to touch upon my experience of bulimia or binge eating. That's not on purpose, it's just because I do find it quite difficult to talk about, and rightly or wrongly I do still feel that embarrassment sometimes to talk about it, which I shouldn't do, and that's the exact reason why I do all this campaigning and other people do all this campaigning, is to stop that feeling and encourage people to talk. So it would be hypocritical of me to do all of this and then not talk about it. So where do I start? Beat have actually published a blog I've written today on my experience of binge eating and bulimia. It's only a really short text because it's part of their #WhyWait campaign. If you check out my previous video, that tells you about the campaign. But basically, I just thought I would talk about my experience of bulimia and mainly recovery from it, and tips or advice that I would give to those suffering, and to people who know other people who are suffering, on how they can help. Because I found when I was in the throes of it, I didn't really know what to do or what would make it better, so I would have benefited by somebody saying, you know, what they were going through, so I could relate to it and maybe do something about it. So basically I developed bulimia when I was in recovery from anorexia. I never, as I've already mentioned, received medical help for my anorexia. So I, at the time, this was years ago, I just kind of did what I thought I had to do to gain weight, and one day I just thought, oh my god, I'm just going to eat all the food. Which sounds great, some of you might be thinking, but when you are scared of food, it's a bit of an issue. So yeah, when I started eating food again, I felt really guilty. I was terrified of gaining weight, so to be actively trying was very difficult for me. So I can't even remember the first time it happened, but obviously one day I just decided that the guilt was too much and I made myself sick. And I found that as the days went on and the more food I ate, that guilt built up, and it just got worse and worse and worse. I didn't know how to handle it, didn't know how to release the sadness, the anger that eating was causing me, and I just found myself throwing up after almost every meal that I was eating, because it was so much bigger than the portions that I'd been having before. Obviously, looking back now, the food that I was throwing up was just a normal portion of food, but at the time, having only eaten 200 calories a day, a full-scale meal was a real struggle. for me. So yeah, it started with just throwing up general food that I was eating. Then once my body got used to the food, and I got my head around eating again, accepting that I needed to eat this normal amount of food, it's almost like my body just craved everything. It was like you've been starved for so long that as soon as your body then is fed, it's like, oh my god, give me all the food. And basically that's what happened. I just found myself eating and eating and eating and eating. And I know that, some of you are watching this and just think, oh, we all binge eat, we all eat too many biscuits, or we sit there with a share-sized bag of Doritos and eat the whole thing. It's normal, which fair enough it is, but when I say binging, I mean it would be packets of crisps. It would be just excessive volumes of food, eaten very quickly, mindlessly eating. It would just be grabbing the nearest thing, not even knowing what I was doing half the time, or being aware really of what I was eating. And then after, I would say 20 minutes or so, it would be like something clicked and I would be like, what have I done? And then I'd go make myself sick. So that's literally the gist of it, and that became so often that it became habit. And once I was in that habit, it became normal life to me, and this was happening 2, 3, 4 times a day, every single day, for a long time, before obviously I went to the doctors and got treatment, which that time scale I've spoke about in my previous video. So that's how bulimia started for me. Recovery was really difficult. Recovery was, I don't even know where to start. I had CBT therapy. Obviously everybody is different, and what worked for me might not work for everybody else, but my therapist very much focused on the emotions and the thoughts that were going through my head in the moments before I started binge eating. So that emotion that I would feel, how can we release that emotion in other ways rather than reaching for food? How can we turn those negative thoughts that I'm just going to sit and eat everything now, then I'm going to make myself sick, how can we turn that into something positive? And maybe, okay, I feel like I'm going to start eating everything. What can I do? Shall I go for a walk? Shall I paint my nails? Shall I have a shower? Shall I ring a friend? Because it's little things like that if you do that, the feeling of needing to eat everything or needing to be sick will for me anyway, eventually pass. So I hope I'm making sense. But it was focusing on changing those negative emotions to positive emotions and actions that eventually gradually wiped out the actual action of me binge eating. There was loads of other factors. Obviously, there was loads of other things that came into it. It was for a long time. It was a case of asking my mum and dad to get rid of a lot of the certain foods that were in the house, snack foods especially, because they were the things that I would reach for. So biscuits, crisps, I can't even think now, just things like that, things that you would deem to be bad. Not saying they're bad, but I wouldn't be binging on a bunch of bananas or a punnet of grapes kind of thing. So it was about working with, asking them to work with me to, just for a while get rid of those, which can actually be really beneficial to the whole family. It doesn't have to be a negative thing like, oh my god, hide this in case I binge eat on it and make myself sick. It can be, well, let's all try a bit of a healthier lifestyle. So that was really helpful. And then once you've got yourself out of that cycle, reintroducing those things into the house isn't so scary. Say, looking back, a massive thing is making people aware of it. I didn't tell anybody, and basically I have my own bathroom upstairs in my house, and my mum and dad don't use it, and my sister didn't use it when she lived with us, so none of them were aware when I was making myself sick, so it was really easy to hide, but as soon as I said to them, oh my god, I'm doing this every day, they were much more aware. My mum came upstairs a lot more, and I was a lot more, I don't know how to say, afraid or conscious of making myself sick, because I knew that my parents would know, and that automatically stopped me from doing it. So definitely talking to other people. I don't know whether it's having that embarrassment out or the shame that you feel inside yourself stops you from doing it, but for me it did massively. So as I've already said in my previous video with the whole hashtag why wait thing, make sure you're talking to people, because it, for me, it helped anyway. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but for me it did. By the way, I'm sorry if this video is not really making much sense. I've not really planned what I was going to say, so I'm just kind of, whoa. So obviously I've spoke about how I developed binge eating and bulimia cycle, how I recovered through the CBT, through obviously telling parents, through limiting food in the house, but I just obviously want to say that you do those things because you want to do them. You have to want to get better, and it's not easy, and I would never sugarcoat anything and make out that recovery was easy. Recovery from bulimia was and is, I guess, for me 100 times harder than recovering from anorexia. Not by any means playing down anorexia. It's just as bad, just as harmful to the body, just as dangerous. But for me personally, bulimia is a lot harder to get over because it was much more habitual in my life. I'd really like it if you ask me some questions, maybe comment below if there's anything that you want to know. The video is a bit of a mishmash, to be honest, and again, I'm sorry if it didn't make sense, but I really hate structured things, and I would rather just talk to the camera to make it a bit more lifelike, a bit more vlog style than a sit down, formal video, because I'm a real person. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just trying to do something good for other people. So yeah, thank you for watching. Comment down below if you want to know anything. Click the thumbs up, give it a like and subscribe, and hopefully my next video, I'm trying to get some of the girls on board, and we're going to do a bit of a Q&A on supporting somebody with an eating disorder, which I don't think is done enough. I think there's a lot of advice out there on how you can cope with an eating disorder and the things you should do and the recovery techniques, but there's not a lot for the people that are supporting others with it. How do they cope? What can they do to help the person suffering? What can they say? How can they improve their lives, basically? And I think that's so important, because I know personally, my parents really struggled. They didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do, and I think with my friends as well, which is why I think they'd be on board to do the video, so you know who you are. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.